Hi, I'm Amanda Skelton, an independent Stepping Up demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you this triangular pop-up card. So it's a really nice 3D card. I've made this a male oriented card with the by the dock bundle, but I'm going to do the same design to show you, and I'm going to do it with the Dress to Impress bundle. So this card is nice and 3D and it stands up, but you can then fold it down, fold it in half and put it in a small envelope to send it. So it's a decent thick, you know, it's quite thick. You probably have to go for a bigger envelope, pay for more postage, but it's a really nice 3D card, and I'll show you the secret of how it sort of snaps into place and how it stays there as we go through. And then we've got this little stand here as well, so use a raised pattern here to make the pop up. Okay, so this is using Night of Navy blue cardstock, and then white cardstock, and then I've also used Come Sail Away DSP for this. One thing to just be careful of is with this, because there is obviously a right way up, is be very careful with what pattern you've chosen. So because on this one you can see the sailing boats here and the knots have got a right way up, you need to make sure that when you cut your squares or your triangles that you keep your pattern. I would try and use a pattern that hasn't got an obvious direction. That will make it so much easier. If not, a tip that I would say is when I give you the dimensions for these pieces here, one thing to do is to either use the same pattern on both the flaps and the sides, and then it'll be a lot easier. Or another thing to do would be to cut, if you have got directional and you want to use different patterns, is cut out double the amount of these two pieces, and then you'll have enough for two cards and you'll be able to mix and match them so that you'll get the right direction from both sets of pieces. Okay, so what do you need to do this card? Okay, so we are going to have, right, so I'm going to do this in a different stamp set. I'm going to do this with the Dress to Impress bundle, and I've got different DSPs, so I'm matching the colours of that. So I have got a piece of, what have I got? I have got Blackberry Bliss cardstock, and this piece measures 8 inches by 8 inches. And then you want another piece of Blackberry Bliss cardstock, and that needs to measure 6 inches by 3.5 inches. And then you want some white card, and you want white card cut to 3 7/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch, and you want 2 of those. Okay, and then you want 2 smaller, slightly smaller squares, and you want these to measure 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. Again, you want 2 of those. And then you want some pieces of patterned paper. So I've gone for an easier option here. I'm going to have the same pattern on both of these. Okay, so for that I've got 2 pieces of DSP cut to 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Don't forget you've got different sides patterns to use as well, so that could be your other pattern as well if you wanted to. And then another piece, I've got a different pattern of DSP for the base, and that needs to be 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. Okay, and then you'll want some additional cardstock, white cardstock. You'll need enough to be able to cut out a circle of about 3 inches diameter of a circle, and then whatever additional elements we're going to add on, we'll want more cardstock for that to be able to stamp and colour and die cut. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to use a Dress to Impress bundle. So this is the stamp set. It's got some really nice elements on it. I bought this before Mother's Day, so I could actually use the Happy Mother's Day sentiment on it. But it's really nice. It's got your lipstick, your shoes and your perfume, and it's got some really nice sayings on it as well. And especially at the moment with the sort of hashtag be kind, kindness is always in style is a really nice sentiment at the moment. And then you've got the matching dies as well. And I was a bit disappointed when I first received this, because I thought, oh, have I got to cut out the shoe and lipstick? Then I realised there was another layer. So there is another project that I'm going to do with this bigger die, which I will show on another YouTube tutorial. But we're going to do things with the lipstick, the shoe and the perfume for this one. Okay. So let's start with our base. So the first thing we'll want is paper trimmer. So I've already cut this to 8 inches by 8 inches. And what you'll want to do is, right, if you've got a scoring blade and a cutting blade, when I'm doing scoring, I tend to take my cutting blade off of my trimmer just so I don't make any mistakes, because the amount of times I've cut things instead of scoring it. So that's just a hint if you fall foul of that as well. So what you want to do is you want to measure down to 4 inches, and using your score blade, you want to score at 4 inches. And then you want to turn your piece of card around 90 degrees and again measure 4 inches. And this time you're only going to go halfway across to the middle line that you've already scored. So I've got 4 inches on here, so I can line that up to the middle of there. And then while you've got that there, I'm going to use my cutting blade and I'm going to cut from the left up to, again, that same middle score line. So I've got 3 score lines and 1 cut line, and that's what you should end up with. Okay, so that's for our base. And then what we can also use is our cutting for our other pieces as well. So I'll just get my sample back again. So we need to cut all these triangles. Okay, so you've got 2 sizes of white card and 2 sizes of patterned paper. So just make sure that you've got the smaller white patterned card, 2 of those, and then you've got the 2 smaller pieces. So if you just double check that your pattern paper is smaller than your white paper, then you know you've got the right ones. Okay, so on each of my white pieces of card, I'm basically going to cut from corner to corner to make your triangles. Okay, sorry, I have to put my head in it to make sure that I can see from above. So that's 2 of those, and then I'm going to do the same for this one. Again, I'm going to cut from corner to corner. So those are my 4 pieces, and then I'm also going to do the same for I'm just trying to work out, I don't think it matters actually on this. No, I don't think it matters. So again, I'm going to cut from corner to corner. So I know that that one and that one, because they came from the same piece, I know that those 2 will fit together. And then I'm going to do the same on this one. And I'm going to do it that way. And again, I know that I've got my 2 pieces going from corner to corner. I've chosen a pattern that actually you wouldn't notice the difference anyway. One thing I've just remembered that I'd forgotten to say, on your base, so the piece of scored card you've got here opposite your cut, what we need to do is we need to score from the top, from both, basically the corners. So we're going to score again each corner. So we're going to go from, again, not cut, we're going to score. So we want to have each of your edges of score lines there and here. And then the same from the top corner again, opposite your cut piece. And again, score, not cut. And then hopefully you can see there, you've got the score lines coming down. Okay. And they are going to become these flaps here. Okay. So the other thing we can do here while we've got our trimmer and score, on the piece of coloured card that you've got at 6 inches by 3.5 inches, you want to put the long edge along your ruler, and you want to score at 3 inches. And then at 4 3/8, so 4 3/8, so just under the 4.5. Okay, and you'll see what that is for in a minute. Okay, so I think we're finished with that for the moment. So we can start doing some assembling. So what you can do is fold your 2 pieces up like that, and then turn it the other way around, and then fold the little wings over, and then I'm just going to fold it that way as well. So when you've done that, you should see that you can twist the base around, and then you've got your little corner. Okay, I do all the folding now because it makes it a lot easier to visualise what it's going to look like, and especially when you start adding on all your panels, it makes it obvious to know where they're all going to go. Okay, so what we can do now is just do some sticking. So I'm using double-sided permanent glue here. I just tend to use the tape, it's a lot quicker for me. But obviously you can use wet glue if you'd rather. It does give you a bit more wiggle room when you're trying to line up, especially on triangles. Right, so that's 2 done. So I'm going to go there. I'll just do the final 2. I wasn't sure if this would look okay being sort of a white background patterned paper on the white card, but I think because it's going on such a dark background card, I think it'll actually look quite nice and clean, and it'll give it a nice stark contrast. Right, so there you go. So I've got my 4 corners. Okay, so I'm going to glue those on now. just want to make sure that you've got a nice edge to your triangle, so that you've got your base colour of card as a nice frame. And the reason why these sections are smaller is because obviously you've got the fold in between, and because the card isn't obviously whole, that's why these sections are the smaller squares for both the white card and for the DSP patterned card. So I'm just going to line that up with, so it's probably more important that it lines up with the bottom, sorry, the other side there, because it'll be more obvious when you open it up. Okay, and then the final one, there you go. So that is our backdrop. That's quite a nice card actually, it's quite pretty. Okay, so we'll do this first one first. Right, so I said about secret in how this closes. Okay, so the secret is magnets. So these are magnets, I just bought them off of Amazon. But look how tiny they are. So there's 100, well it's probably just under 100 there because I've used a couple. But they are tiny. They're very strong actually. So I don't know if you can see. But they are tiny. The important thing is that they're really narrow, really slim. So we want two, oh, there you go. That didn't work, did it? So you want two of those. And you need to keep them far apart so they don't spring back together again. Okay. So that's that. So what you want to do is you want to put the magnet on the front corner, and that's just going to be enough that when you hold it, construct it into its 3D form, it will just be enough to hold it. So I've got my other egg pattern, and that's going to go on there, and then that's going to go on there. But what we're going to do first is we're going to put the we're going to hide the magnet underneath this sheet. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little, so while it's closed like that, I'm just going to put a little pencil mark so I remember which corner, because it's very tempting to put it on that corner. It could go on that corner, it could go there, but then it doesn't really hold it very well, so I would suggest the front corner. So the first thing you want to do then is just put a little dab and do it in from the corner so that you make sure that your top sheet will cover it. Okay, I'm just going to use some wet glue, and then it doesn't matter which of your magnets you use, but you just want to, if I can get hold of it, there you go, you just want to place that in the corner. Right, I'm just going to give that a minute to dry, and while that's drying, just put my other magnet out of the way, I'm just going to assemble my other base piece of white card and patterned paper. Okay, so again, you just want to make sure you've got a nice edge. Right, how's that doing? That's not far off actually. So the secret then, to make sure that you get the other magnet in the same place, get your second magnet. Oh, I can't get hold of it. Right, get your second magnet, hold it underneath it. Oh, that must have been the wrong way around. There you go. And it popped and it pulled itself together. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, they're obviously now in line with each other. I'm going to put some glue on the bottom, and I'm going to put it into place as if it's assembled. Just press that down gently and you'll see where the glue's gone. Okay, so you need to now take that magnet off. Sometimes easier said than done. make sure it's glue side down. Actually, I'm going to add another dot of glue because I didn't put an awful lot on there. Make sure it's glue side down. Right, and then that should be in the right place. I'm just going to let that dry a bit because otherwise it'll pull it. The strength of the magnet, if that's not glued, will be too strong for it. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, we can then put that over the top and it hides it nicely. You can feel it, but you can't see it. So sometimes if you get a thicker magnet, you can see the bump. And if that happens, you could either stamp something on your patterned paper or on your plain paper before you place it on top of the magnet, or you could cut out a little flower or a butterfly or something and have it as a topper and add it on top, so it sort of disguises it a bit. Right, how's that doing? No, it's still moving, I think. Okay, let's leave that a minute more. Okay, so this piece of card is going to go on there, and that is where you're going to write your sentiment. That's where you're going to write your sentiment. So that'll be underneath. You can write your sentiment when you open it up, and then that'll be hidden when you construct it. So I think I'm going to just add a bit of detail. So I'm just going to add a shoe, which is going to go in that left corner, just to add a bit more detail. So when you open it, you've got that as well. I think I might colour it in as well. I'm going to colour the other one in as well. So I'm going to do this as if it is, oh, I don't know. Is it Louboutins that have the red sole? So I'm going to do this to obviously match the colours on the card. So what colour have I got here? So I have got dark rich raspberry, which is pretty much the colour of the card there. And I've also got, what have I got there? Light cherry cobbler, which picks out this bright colour here. So I think I might do it in this light cherry cobbler, just to bring in the pink colour from the patterned paper. Also, this is a bit like the colour of the base, isn't it, on the Louboutins. And if you want to, you can add the darker cherry cobbler to give it some shadow. I'm just going to give it a black sole, just to, just doing that just really finishes it off. Right, is that my dark cherry cobbler? So I think I might just use the right end. So I'm just going to add a bit of shadow in the middle there, and then use the lighter shade again, just spread it out. That just adds a bit of shadow and a bit more detail. Okay, so that should be there now. So you close it up. There you go. otherwise it just keeps on opening. And if you want to, you can stamp a sentiment. So like I said, there's some lovely sentiments in here. So I think I'm going to use Hello Fabulous. I'm actually going to give this to somebody for their 18th birthday, I've decided, which is tomorrow. Very good friend of the family's daughter. Just a week after my son's 18th birthday as well, actually. So, which colour shall I use? I think I might use a cherry cobbler. No, I won't. I'll use the blackberry bliss. So, I'm just going to... brings in the colour again of the card. I've got colour all over me. So then we're going to put that on there. Just really finishes it off having that little detail there. Right, so is that going to stain? No, I think we're okay. So we can put that one on now. So I don't know if you can see, you've got to be careful with your alcohol markers, with your blends. If you haven't got blends, you can use pens or inks, but you do have to be careful. It can bleed through, so you definitely want to have that as a layer on top. I wouldn't do it directly onto your base layer of card. There you go, and then it snaps into place. So now to do the detail on the front. So we had this piece of card which is your 6 inches by 3.5 inches, and we scored it. So you want to fold it in half to start with and just leave it folded in half. So this is where you need your circle die. So I'm going to get my die cutting machine. So I've got my circle die here. So like I said, it's about 3 inches, in diameter, and this is going to become our pop-up stand. So you've got the open edge here. Okay, so you want to have the open edge on this side, and then you want to have your circle die on the folded edge. You want to make sure that your circle die doesn't go too far above it, because if it does, you're going to end up with 2 pieces of card. What you want to do is you want this folded edge to be your hinge and part of your pop-up. So you want to make sure that it, let's fold it a bit more. Might have a chance of staying there. So you probably want about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches at the bottom where the fold is not cut with your die. You definitely want some daylight at the bottom there. Let's see if I can get some washi tape, which is a good little hack. Oh, if I can get hold of it. Right, so I'm just going to, hopefully that'll be enough to hold it. Just needs to be enough so I can put the top plate on it, really. Right, that's flat at least. So like you said, like I said, I've got a gap there. So I'm going to put my the other way around. Okay. Not very easy to do it from that angle. take off your washi tape. And then what you end up with is this. And one of them has still got your score mark on. So you want to fold it like this. And then that is going to become your pop-up stand. Okay, so let's get rid of this for the minute. Right, so what we'll also want then is we want to use our scraps of white card now, and we're going to make a circle to make our detail. So I don't know if you can see, that is the circle that we've got there, and then that is going to become this stand, and we're going to add our detail onto this, or in this one, and add detail onto there. Right, so I want my white card again. And you want your die cutting machine and your same circle. You want exactly the same circle that you just used. Shouldn't need to hold it down this time because this will just be one piece on here. Okay, so there we have that. Then we shouldn't need that circle again now. If you haven't got a circle die, you could use a hexagon or an oval or a square. It doesn't have to be a circle. Whatever you use for this shape, you just want to use for the top layer as well. So you could use an oval, octagon, anything really, so long as you make sure that it overlaps. So you've got your fold here, and then you can just use it and line it up for the front. Okay, so we're going to use these lovely stamps here. So I'm going to do some perfume, and I'm going to do some lipstick, and I've got another shoe. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to line them up yet, but so I'm going to stamp them in black. Just gives them a nice, I'm going to be die cutting these out, so doesn't matter really where they go on your piece of card. And I really love this perfume one. This perfume one's really nice. Just a really nice detail. Right, I've probably gone a bit close to the edge there, but I think I'll get away with it. Okay. Sorry about that, a bit loud. Okay, so I'm going to use blends again, but again, if you've got any other your own pens or whatever, then I'm going to use the Smoky Slate, light and dark, and I'm going to use the Cherry Cobbler again, and the black, and I think I might use the light Cherry Cobbler and the Rich Raspberry as well. So I'm going to then match in both the colours. I'm going to match in the brighter colour and the darker purple of the card. So I'm going to, or what I might actually also do is use, is it my ivory? Let me have a look at my ivory. Yeah, I might use ivory for the perfume as well. And then a very pale pink, and then I might pick out this pink colour here. Let's see what colour. see that goes, doesn't it? That is Light Calypso Coral. I think that should be okay. Actually, that was even lighter for some reason. So I think I should do it that colour. Okay. Excuse me. So I'm going to start on my lipstick. I'm going to give it a black. Enclosure. To give it a silver mechanism. So I've used the darker grey there, and I'm going to use the lighter grey here, and I'll probably add some shadow. So I'll probably just add a bit of shadow to that side. Just blend it in a bit with the lighter shade again. And I think I'll do this in the rich raspberry because I'm going to do this one in the red again, the brighter colour. So I'm going to do this in the colour to match the cardstock. But you can play with the colours anyway, it depends what colours you've got and what colour you want to pick out of the patterned paper. Right, so again I'm going to use the cherry cobbler. Just checking I was using the right colour then. I hadn't gone to the darker one. And when you've got pieces that you're going to be die cutting, I tend to do the colouring in when it's still on the large sheet of paper. I just find it a lot easier to handle than trying to hold a tiny piece of paper. It's not too bad on these aren't too small, but sometimes you get really small pieces of small patterns to cut out and colour, and it can get quite fiddly. Right, this is actually a case of where I'm actually going to use the narrow nib of the pen rather than the paintbrush end, which I generally prefer. There you go. And then I'm going to use ivory to do the perfume. If you've got aqua painters, you can use aqua pens, the water pens, to colour this as well. You can just dip it on into your ink pad. Just make sure that there isn't too much water in your aqua painter, and it depends what paper you're using on, otherwise it just first of all it bleeds with the black outline, and it also makes the card too wet and it just swells up. And I'll just keep this quite simple and do this all the same colour. This ivory is quite good colour for skin tones as well. And I'm going to do the middle bit as well as a label. And then I'm going to use the light Calypso Coral. I probably would have done a slightly paler colour in hindsight, but it will go with the paper. Just the perfumes are generally quite pale colours, aren't they? But they're all quite striking colours. So let's get those out of the way so we can use our dyes. So we're going to use the shoe and the lipstick. Right, I'm going to do one at a time, just because it will be easier to keep them in place. Because it's clear, you can see if it's moved or not. My plate's not going to last much longer. See the nice crack I've got in it there. So then, I'm going to do the lipstick. Trying to work out which way I normally put this now. I think normally that way. Dear, that didn't go too well. Just about get away with that. And then the last one is the shoe, which this would be fiddly to hand cut out, I think. So I'm quite pleased that we've got a die for that one. Right, let's see if I can do that one a bit better. That's better. Okay. So again, you can get rid of your die cut machine. Just get rid of my dies. Okay. So now it's time to start designing how we want to. So we're going to have that on there. That's going to be in there. What I'm going to use, I'm going to use the lipstick as my stopper, and we're going to raise it with pads, sticky pads, so that will become the stopper. Just because it's sort of straight, it just sort of it just lends itself to that really. And then I think I'm just going to put those to the side, and then what I think I might use is these sequins. These are actually Peaceful Poppy sequins that come with the poppy section, but I'm going to use it. So I'm just trying to find my pick my tool. I'm going to use that to pick up. There's some really nice coloured sequins in there that will just pick out the peachy colour actually, and that colour as well picks out the red, which is quite nice. And I might even go for the black as well for the shoe, so that looks quite nice with that. Yeah, so that's what I'll do with that. So I'm going to put everything on here first before I attach it onto here. It will just be a lot easier. You just want to make sure that when you assemble it, you can put things off of the edge here, but you don't want to put anything too much off the bottom here, otherwise it won't stop against that very easily. Okay, so I can have that sticking off the side there, etc. But I don't want the shoe to come down too far here. What there is also actually, as part of that stamp set, is this stamp, which is like little bubbles, I suppose, and I might put that on there as well as putting the sequins. So I think I might do that in this colour actually, which is the colour that came with the New in Colours, but the ink never came out. So Highland Heather, but if you stamp it off again, it makes it the lighter colour. And I'm actually going to put some darker ones on as well. And you can just go off the edge as well, and that just fills in a bit of a blank area. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to add those on as well. If you want to, you don't have to use this to decorate. You can leave it blank and just put your sentiment on there if you want to. Happy birthday or something. So I've got my, I'm going to add my sticky pads. Find something to stick it with. Right, so I can get a decent thickness of sticky pad. And you want to make sure that, like I said, it is a decent depth of sticky pad, because you need it to raise up to be your stopper. That should be fine. So I'm going to add my stopper last, but I've just put that onto it for now. And then I'm going to use, I'm just going to use some wet glue. Be mindful of where you're going to overlap it, so that you don't put glue on areas that are not going to be stuck, otherwise it will stick to the card. Again, I'm going to put some glue on my shoe. Put that there, and then I'm going to use my picnic tool again, and I think I'm going to put right, I need to turn them over. I'm going to put the red one there, I think. There's a gap there, so I think I might put the black one there. And then the peachy coloured one there. Okay, well you can assemble those how you want to anyway, whichever takes your fancy. Okay, so let me just wait for that to dry a little bit, but that's going to go on there like that, and then that is going to be the stopper. Right, and again, to assemble this, glue the piece of folded circle that you've got here, because then you know that you're not going to glue a section on the back of this one that isn't going to touch anything. Again, I'd use wet glue because then you can manoeuvre it, and you just want to make sure that it maybe even goes a little bit lower than the base, but it certainly doesn't want to go any higher than the base. And you can just press that, make sure that it adheres. Right, and then I'm going to take the adhesive sections off. And I'm going to put it decent size up. There you go. And it just acts as a stopper. And then what we'll do is just stick this onto your base. If you want to, you can put it flat. And then you want to just make sure that it's centered. So you might want to make it stand up just so you can see how it's going to go. And then if you want to, you can then push it flat. If you want to, you can put something on top of it. Oh, can you see? That's slightly off the edge too much, because that isn't going to go flat now. I might take a little bit off of that. So there you go, that's learnt something for me, hasn't it? So you want to just make sure that then that... Actually, no, it's fine. Because when you actually fold it, it's just about okay, and it should fit in your envelope. But just watch out for that. That will be fine, because I'll make the envelope a bit bigger. But just make sure of that so that you don't go over the edge too far. That's probably just about get away with that. So there you go. So that's using the Dress to Impress suites. Like I said, you can choose whichever patterns you want, wherever you want them to be. And it's just a really nice special card. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. You can find the products at my Stampin' Up webpage, which is www.amandascraftedcards.stampingup.net. And you can find all the products there. What are we now? We're the middle of April. So these products are in the current catalogue. Current catalogue is due to finish, I think, something like the 2nd or the 3rd of June. I don't know yet what is and isn't going to be retired. So if you like the suite, I would definitely get it now in case it's not carried over for the new catalogue. There's loads more you can do with this set as well. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, thank you very much.